Hi, everybody. This is Megan Salinas for the Popcorn Tot Network, and today I am talking to you guys about the upcoming Rey Network movie marathon for the Nightmare on Elm Street, the Rip Your Heart
Out.
Way better than I could have done. Upcoming Valentine's Day Marathon starting on February 13th. Now, we're here today to talk to you with the one and only Robert Englund. Robert, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I want everybody to put their discs of The Notebook away and all of those Jennifer Aniston rom-coms and have a serious, romantic Valentine's Day on El Rey with me.
I can't think of anything better, actually, to watch on Valentine's Day weekend than one of my favorite horror movie franchises.
Look, if we're watching something scary, the girl jumps in the man's arms. Now, come on. This is romantic.
That is a fact. Actually, that's sort of a tradition, actually. With me and my friends, we sit down and watch horror movies every year. So what are you most excited about for fans to see during this marathon?
Well, to be honest, the thing that's on the marathon, I think the fun thing is we all are able to binge now, and we've been binging for a while with the new platforms and technology, so we have our attention spans have been stretched a little. You know, it doesn't mean you can't go out for chocolates and red wine or whatever you want, but I would say definitely knock off 3 and 4 as a double bill. Yeah, Dream Warriors and Freddy's Revenge as a double bill. They really work well together. And I think you'll also realize that if you watch it carefully, 3 probably is, if we had to take a vote, if we took a poll, I think 3 is the fan favorite now, Dream Warriors. And you get to see the famous Freddy snake devour Patricia Arquette. So I can always say that I've chewed up an Oscar winner now.
Now, with looking back at this franchise as a whole, what do you think is your favorite behind-the-scenes moment that maybe fans aren't aware of?
Well, there's favorite moments behind the scenes. I think one that sticks with me was as far back as the original. And I remember, being half out of the makeup and wanting to, get out of there. But it was the big day of the Johnny Depp death, right? We're going to kill Johnny, And Heather was with me, and she was in her little sexy pajamas. And I think I had half the makeup off. And they had this massive rotating room that they also used for Tina, when we got Tina up on the ceiling for the Tina kill. Tina! And so we were going to see how they redress the set to make it Johnny's room. And they'd been working around the clock. The poor special effects crew, they hadn't slept in a week. And they had Wes Craven, and they had the cameraman Jacques Heitken belted in these sort of Volkswagen bucket seats, and with the cameras on gyros, so they were like permanently there, because everything that you think is right side up is really upside down. It's like that old Fred Astaire movie where he runs up the side of the building and dances. At any rate, all set to go, and they have all of this conduit in the sound stage. It's the old I Love Lucy stage. Tons and tons of conduit that they've brought in, and it's all full of liquid, red liquid, to be the blood, Johnny's guts, right? And they have it all lowered in the top of the revolving room so that gravity will make it explode through the bed. Remember now, the room is upside down, but the camera's upside down too, so it looks right side up. That's how they did this effect. And we're all ready to go, and they have to spin the room so it'll be upside down. It's all loaded up, and then they're going to release the blood. Well, they spin the room the wrong way. They had to spin it clockwise. So the blood starts gushing in. It comes in the wrong way. It comes out the corner of the bed, underneath the bed. It runs down the wall. It practically drowns Wes and Jacques. It goes out the window of the Johnny Depp bedroom, of Glenn's bedroom, and it hits the floor. Now, if you know anything about sound stages, they've got wires everywhere. There's cable everywhere because it's all electrical. And I'm standing there with Heather, and I see this wave, this like 3-inch wave of blood coming at me, like a tsunami of a mini Lilliputian tsunami coming at me across the floor. And I see the cables, and I went, let's see, cables, electricity, water. That doesn't mix. And Heather and I turned heel and ran like big girly men out the back of the sound stage. But yeah, that was a big disappointment. They had to do it all over again. They had to reload it all over again from day one. They had to clean up Wes and Jacques and get that shot off. Yeah, that was nasty. And I think that it was just one of those things where the guys were so exhausted. They'd been overworked and working too hard, and they just spun it the wrong way because the room was on a gimbal, so it could spin either way. And it just made that much difference. It just, all of the blood came out the wrong way.
Well, when it finally worked out, it turned out great. So all of their hard work paid off. So going back, you found obviously your niche in horror, but you've been an actor for a long time. When were you initially bitten by the acting bug, so to speak?
Well, I was going to be a stage actor. I can't remember exactly. My mother's best friend had a daughter who was a year ahead of me in school, and she was drop dead gorgeous, and she was a wannabe actress. And one summer, I was sort of assigned to her. She was supposed to chaperone me, and she was going to this very prestigious children's workshop. And so I went along with her, and I figured I was going to sweep the stage and be an usher, with a flashlight and maybe get lucky with a couple of the girls. That's what I was hoping for. And I was really small then. But she was, she was ahead of me in school. She was gorgeous. She had all these friends. She was very popular. Well, I got there and they had these open auditions, and I auditioned. I wound up playing Peter Pan. I wound up playing Aladdin. I wound up playing, let's see, what else did I do that summer? I think I was Hansel and Gretel and Pinocchio. And I remember halfway through the season in this wonderful old hot theater, and the kids were all 12 to 17 and a half. 12 to 18 was the range. And I remember I was in Pinocchio, and I had this Tyrolean, yodelay Swiss vest on because it's Pinocchio, northern Italy, and I had on my shorts and my hat, my always in the makeup, Robert Englund, my first ever prosthetic makeup. I had the Pinocchio nose on, and I was being chased by Indians across the stage, and they would shoot arrows at me, and I'd run across, and then they would run across, and then I'd run back the other way, and I would have arrows stuck in me because I'm made of wood. I'm Pinocchio, the puppet. You can't hurt me. And every night I had styrofoam hidden in my Tyrolean little vest, my little colorful vest. And I would put more and more arrows in it. And then I realized I could go get some styrofoam from backstage, and I put some in my butt, in my pants, in my shorts, and I stuck some arrows in my butt. And then I put some styrofoam up into my little hat, my little Pinocchio hat with the feather in it. And I stuck some arrows into that, and I'd hold an arrow in my mouth, and I got a bigger laugh every night and every night after that. And something in me, it was like being a rock star, getting that perfect laugh in that perfect place every night. And when the show closed, I went backstage, and there had been celebrity children in the cast and in the workshop with me. And this man came backstage, and he was the host of The Tonight Show before Johnny Carson. It was Steve Allen.
My goodness.
Who hosted The Tonight Show before, and he discovered all these great comedians. He had Jonathan Winters on his show, and all these famous comedians on his show that we all know from years of 60s and 70s television with Bob Newhart and stuff. Anyway, he came backstage, and he told me how good I was. And he said, kid, you got it. You can be the real. And no one had ever done that. And this was like, everybody in the theater was nervous about him being there. And he came back to see me. And so I think that's when the seed was planted. I think that moment. I was probably 13, just turned 13.
So yeah, very early on. Yeah. Let's talk about your technique a little bit, because you've talked before about sort of the danger of over-preparing as an actor, but at the same time, for this role in particular, that they have to do post-modification for the voice. So how did you reconcile that as somebody who likes to be in the moment?
Well, I don't improvise very much as Freddy. The thing that changed in my acting with Freddy was I had been on a hit television series, and I was really, I think there was a moment on V where I had an epiphany about film acting. I've been known for my energy for years, and that I bury people half my age on the set, with my energy, but I've always known the value of silence and being quiet and still, but so many directors wanted to exploit my energy so many times, and I had this moment on V where I had this epiphany about hiding from the camera a little bit, and about not summoning that energy up at the beginning of a take, but just not summoning any energy at all. And when I did Freddy, I realized how much actors, and now I can catch other actors doing that. You see it a lot on television with actors that have exposition and they whisper it all out, or they have a corny line. Instead of embracing it, that emotion, they whisper it. Now, well, that's just as much acting as overacting, because they're trying not to act at all. Well, we do. We overlap each other. We step on each other's lines all the time in real life. We're always doing that. And so I remember when I did Freddy, it was this exhilarating, liberating sense of freedom that I could act again. I could use all these tricks I learned in the theater. I changed my voice. I moved differently than Robert moves. I had to live up to the surrealistic scenery around me. And when I got back to normal acting after Freddy and during Freddy, my quiet was even quieter and my still was even stiller, but I wasn't afraid to go big either sometimes. So I stretched both ends of my dynamic, and that's what I learned from playing Freddy. The contract we signed says actor. It doesn't say behavior. And I remember years ago hearing people talk about soap opera acting and how they thought that was real. And people don't pause like that at all in real life. And yet everybody thought that was realistic acting. And then it became primetime soaps. Remember, in primetime soap opera acting, there's nothing wrong with it. That's a style. And I love it as a style. And there's nothing more difficult than learning all that dialogue every day for a soap when you're a soap actor. But that's also a style. And you can also see people that improvise too much. You can catch them now. I've caught some actors that I love, big actors, Oscar-winning that I love, but you see them working it up by swearing or improvising a little bit to get themselves into the moment. Yeah.
So you've mentioned that you were a fan of the horror genre when you were younger, of the classic horror movie monsters, the Lon Chaney Jr.'s. Was that something that influenced your performance as Freddy, or is that something you sort of kept in your back pocket for when you played a reimagining of one of the classic Universal horror monsters, the Phantom of the Opera?
No, actually that stuff was buried pretty deep. I was influenced only for Freddy by Klaus Kinski. I had just seen Nosferatu before I shot the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and the way he hinged his hand, I borrowed a little bit of that for the glove. His neck was thrust a little bit forward, and I loved the baldness, which encouraged me to take the hat off more and reveal Freddy's disfigurement. I love the strength of that. His ear was a little similar to Freddy's ear, and I loved that profile too, and I erred in that direction sometimes when I would hit my marks. So it was Klauskin, and then a little bit of Jimmy Cagney. I can't remember when this was in my head, whether I was just watching Turner, broadcasting or something and watching an old movie, an old gangster movie, but I remember the value of standing with my legs spread a little bit and strong, like Jimmy Cagney. And then, and I've said this a lot, but the weight of the glove made me just drop one shoulder a little bit naturally. So I exaggerated that just a tad. There was like a gunslinger's posture for Freddy. And it was just something to give him a signature silhouette.
A little bit of attitude, too. So looking at this franchise as a whole and the impact that it's had on the horror genre, we can't help but think of the late, great Wes Craven and how phenomenal he is in terms of the world of cinema. Looking back on it, what do you think was the best piece of advice given to you by Wes?
Well, Wes taught me to respect horror. Wes believed it was a very viable, underrated, and important genre in the history of Hollywood and cinema. And of course, there have been horror movies made in the movies since the day one. There's a really old Frankenstein. There's obviously The Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney, but there's many, many more. The Dybbuk, the famous Jewish Hebrew horror character. There's been lots and lots of horror done over the years, and effects. And it's part of it. And some genres go away. The gangster movies sort of gone now. The film noir has sort of left us. The cowboy movies gone now. These were things that Hollywood and the world relied on as programmers for years and years and years. And they're gone now. But the horror movie has been around now since the beginning of Hollywood. And it's still going strong. And Wes kind of reminded me of that. And it gave me a new insight into the sort of longevity of that, and so I'm again, and also the horror movie made me international, made me an international actor, and I've done 14 movies now overseas in Europe, let alone the other 80 movies I've done, and so I don't think I would be where I am in my life. I just finished a movie. I'm off to shoot another movie in a couple of weeks here. I wouldn't be as busy or playing roles as large or being embraced by my fans as much as I am now had I not listened to Wes and Wes's encouragement and learned to respect the genre and remember that I was a fanboy once and treat it with respect.
Do you have any other upcoming projects that you can talk about? I know when things are in development it can be kind of hard, but if there's anything coming up that fans should keep an eye out for, what would that be?
Well, Funhouse Massacre's out there, which is kind of down and dirty, and a wonderful actor from Justified is just does incredible work in that, Jerry Burns. And then the one I'm most proud of, which is The Last Showing, is out on some platform right now. I star with Finn Jones from the Game of Thrones, and it's the best work I've done in years. I'm the old projectionist who has his revenge at the mall cinema. And I just finished Fade. Over in Europe, I play a blind kind of Van Helsing who has been called in to protect one of the portals to purgatory. There's 7 existing in the world, and one of them the seal has broken. So that's being edited right now, and then I have a new project I'm off to do, I believe in March in Canada. And all I can say is it deals with the phenomenon of hoarding.
That sounds exciting. I'm personally really excited for Funhouse Massacre, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit and talk with us today. We really appreciate it. Where can fans go if they want to keep up with your upcoming projects?
Oh, just go to robertenglund.com, and you can find out about me there.
All right. Thank you so much again. I've been Megan for the Popcorn Talk. We'll see you guys next time.